All right, seventh grade, we are poets in motion going on with this poetry project. So we have gone through our first form of poetry, which was haikus. We have reviewed our second form of poetry, which was cinquains, our 3-line, our 5-line, and now we are moving into a 7-line poem that is called a diamante. 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 That is a Latin term which means diamond. Diamond. And if you look at the layout and the structure of this particular poem, you can see that it formulates a diamond. It formulates a diamond. That's why it's called a diamante. They are very, very similar to the cinquains. However, the structure is slightly different. Okay? When we look at this, it's almost as if it's broken in half. There's a top part to it, and there's a bottom part to it. These two are separate poems, but they are brought together through this long phrase or line in the middle. So we're going to go through the structure so that you understand what goes where, and then you will be able to formulate a diamante of your own when we have finished. All right? So just like the cinquains, we start out with nouns, but everything above the line points to this noun, and everything below the line points to this noun. Okay? So we start off with the noun at the top. We know again that that's a person, place, thing, or idea. Just like the cinquains, we go into adjectives. 2 adjectives that describe this noun. So we have an adjective here, we have an adjective here, and both of them point to the noun above the line. Next, just like the cinquains, we have our verbs, and our verbs are describing the action. What does this noun do? So we have a verb here, we have a verb here, and we have a verb here, and again, they point to the noun at the top. Now we're going to flip for a moment. Yes, we're skipping line 4 for a second. We'll get back to it though. I wanted to look at everything that's below that line. So just like we have our nouns, adjectives, and verbs here, it's going to be the same, but it's almost like it's reverted. It's almost like it's a reflection. So the noun will be our lowest peak of our diamond. Then we're going to have 2 adjectives that describe it. But remember, they describe this noun at the bottom. Everything below points downward. Then we're going to have some verbs. Again, these are the action words that tell what does that noun do. And it is pointing down to our noun here. So now you say, okay, Ms. Jones, what do we do with the line in the middle? What happens with that? This long line is a phrase. And it's a phrase that has to describe both the noun at the top and the noun at the bottom. This is the line that brings the entire poem together. So this line in the middle is a phrase that will connect both sides of the poem. Okay, so that is our setup for our diamante. Nouns at the top and the bottom, the adjectives come next, followed by our verbs, and we tie it all together with a phrase that connects the top to the bottom. And of course, you know I have an example for you because that is what I prefer to do. I always want to make sure you can see an example of what it is I'm referring to. So here we go, ladies and gents. We have what is called the equator, and an igloo. And we know the equator is something that's hot, steamy, whereas an igloo is something that's cold and icy. So they are actual opposites. Opposites. When we look at the equator, the two adjectives that describe it are hot and steamy. And what does the equator do? It's broiling, it's warming, it's soothing. All of those relate and point back to the noun at the top. On the bottom, we have our igloo. How do we describe it? Igloos are icy and cold. What do? Freezing, covering, protecting. Those are verbs. And then we have this line in the middle. That's a phrase. And actually, it ties both sections together. So when we think about hot and cold, we think about the equator and igloos, we realize swimming, sunglasses, ice cubes, Eskimos, those are things related to both ends of the poem. So that line in the middle draws them all together. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the example of a Diamante for you. You know I always like to model and have something available for you to look at and to review as you formulate your own. So when you come back in tomorrow, we should have in our replica, we should have in our writing notebooks 2 haikus, 2 cinquains, and 1 Diamante that you have formulated originally on your own. Again, view the video as often as you need to, just for further information or for clarification. I'm very proud of how our poetry projects are moving forward, and I will see you very, very soon.